Hello and welcome to the first video of 2018. Flashy new titles. That's why there's no green screen this week, because it took hours to learn how to use Adobe After Effects. Anyway, just going to crack on straight away with another coloured platter rim using some pyrography, which I think I've only used on one other piece of textured work that I've shown so far. So hopefully that'll be interesting. It took ages. And I was quite pleased with how this one came out. I hope you will be too. Right, well, so on with the colouring then. And I'm going to be using, from one of my previous videos, the hot melt glue, just as a little bit of a stencil. Because as you know, I like when I'm building up the colour on the pieces that I'm making. I don't just like one colour. I want there to be texture in the colour and some variety. I'm hoping to emulate some kind of crackle glaze effect with this. So I'm just going to put a couple of lightish coats on through various bits of this stencil, which will give me a little bit of a pattern that I can perhaps use to follow with the crackle glaze, which I'm going to put on with a pyrography machine. So fingers crossed. I'm going to start off putting some white into the gravity fed airbrush, and then add some blue into that. I found it's a much better way of making paler colours rather than adding white to the colour that you want to lighten. It seems to work better this way round. So I'll just get some of that mixed up first. Okay, so I put in here some white and some blue, just mixing it up. Still a bit too light. Now these gravity feed airbrushes do come with a little cap that's well worth putting on if you're a bit slapdash like I am. And the other thing, of course, to remember is if you're doing this, you really should be wearing protection and having well ventilated workshop. I won't be able to speak to you very much if I do that, so as this is for a one-off occasion, I won't be wearing my mask. Now remember, I don't want total coverage. I want a spottly effect, and that's looking very nice already, actually. Down here as well, round here. Now the last colour I used with this stencil was black, and I've noticed one or two places where it seems to have been reactivated by the stain. A couple of places here. Oh, I don't think that's going to be a problem though. Okay, so that's the light blue done. I'm going to darken it a little now to get a little bit more variety. So let me put a bit more colour in. And probably what I'll do after I've got the colours done and the burning done is to go over it with a couple of coats of light colour, just to again bring some more of that texture which I keep talking about like a demented fool. Right, let's see how different the colour is. Yeah, you can see there, darker. I'm just going to use this a little in a few of the places. See if we can see a difference. I want to keep these gaps though, so I'm not putting too much on. And it dries so quickly, the stain on here, it doesn't matter if your stencil moves almost immediately after you've put the spray on. You can see here it's picked up, clean the back of your stencils, it's picked up quite a bit of black. But that's still some more textural variety. Can't speak today. Right, I've got quite a bit of blue left in here, so I'm going to have to put this somewhere sensible. And I'm going to get this off the lathe now and get burning with a fan and with a mask on. Okay, let's get on with that. Is on. Now I'm just going to try a few cuts out or a few burns out in the middle here, because I'm probably going to make the rim less wide than this. Yeah, that's burning very nicely and very quickly. You can just about see it. this is ash that I'm using, and there's a definite difference between the grain, the soft and the hard lines. It burns much nicer with the grain. As I've said before in a few of the videos, I don't really see myself as an artist, a colourist, a decorator. So enormous respect for people who have mastered the art of pyrography and produced some stunning examples of art. Some wonderful work I've seen. Just getting into the rhythm here. What are we, about a sixth of the way through it? Wow, well that took a bit longer than expected. Turned my world upside down. Well, that took quite a bit longer than expected. Hour and a half, I reckon, if you're interested. Now to get it back on the lathe, get a little more colour on it, and they're finished. I'm very pleased with it so far. Often at this stage I'm thinking, it's horrible. What I've got to make sure I don't do now is ruin it. But the idea is to get a bit more colour on it. I think I'll start with something a little bit darker, and I think I'm going to put it back through the mask as well. Yeah, I think that should work. Famous last words. The stain works well by building up the colour by having multiple coats. So I'm hoping that putting it on in this way is going to help keep the variety in the texture, or in the colouring, or keep the texture in the colour, I suppose is the right way of putting it. Well, I'm really pleased with this so far. I'm going to leave this to dry a little while, 15-20 minutes or so, then some sanding sealer, then a bit of lacquer to seal it all and give it a bit of shine. Then I'll turn the middle out, and that would be the first platter of 2018 done. On with a coat of acrylic sanding sealer. I've given it enough time, I hope, to dry so that this won't affect it, because sometimes if you put the sealer on before the stain is properly dried, you can get a bit of running going on. Okay, and here's the second coat of Chestnut acrylic sanding sealer. I'm going to use High Coat Clear Lacquer from their Body Shop range, because I want to have quite a lot of shine on this one. But I'm going to put 3 coats or so of this on, leaving 15 minutes between the coats. You have to be careful with this kind of stuff. I have to be careful with this kind of stuff. And there's just always a temptation to just put on a bit too much in one go, and then you get a horrible run and lumps and you have to sand it all off and start again. So I'm trying to avoid that this time. So far so good. Right, here comes coat number 3. Good morning and Happy New Year. It's the 1st of January 2018. And before I get on with the next step of the project, I'd just like to wish you all a Happy New Year. Hope you have an enjoyable one, a happy one, a healthy one, a productive, enjoyable, a beautiful one. Talking of beauty, let's get back to my platter. Now, I've used already 3 coats of the high coat lacquer, but it's not as shiny as I want it to be, so I'm going to put some more on. Probably another 3 or 4 coats, because I really want this to have a pottery look, a very highly glazed look. Start the year with something shiny. Okay, so a lot of shaking, a lot of spraying, and hopefully there'll be something enjoyable for you to look at the end. Okay, it's had another 4 coats of the high coat lacquer put on, and I think that's enough now. I probably need to leave it a little longer before I burnish it, but I'm going to turn the middle out now so that we can see what it looks like as a finished piece. Right, just going to finish off the inside with a bit of cut and polish. Put a nice bit of shine on it. Okay, well, here is the finished experiment in trying to replicate a crackle glaze. Having looked at some pottery examples, I'm not sure if I've got perhaps a bit too much randomness in the pattern going on. But it's certainly something I'm going to try again with other colours. It was an experiment. No back turned, no sides. The top looks pretty good though. I'll put some close-ups up, and if you're new here, if it's the first video you've seen of mine and you want to subscribe, that would be fantastic. And for all of you who have subscribed, thank you very much, and I wish you all a happy new year, and thanks very much for watching. Doing the aerosol can dance. It is New Year's Eve. Got to have fun. Either hand. Oh.